صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Sahih Bukhari, the Book of Watering. Chapter on the statement of Allah. And we have made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Quran, chapter 21, verse 30. And his statement. Then tell me about the water that you drink. Is it you who cause it from the rain clouds to come down? Or are we the causer of it to come down? If we willed, we verily could make it salt and undrinkable. Why then do you not give thanks to Allah? Quran, chapter 56, verse 68 to 70. Chapter on whoever thinks that giving water in charity, or as a gift, or by way of a testament is permissible, whether it is divided or not. Footnote: al-Bukhari wants to refute the opinions of those who think that water cannot be possessed. Fath al-Bari. Narrated Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, who will buy the well of Rumah, a well-known well in Al-Madinah, and endow it for the good of Muslims, so that he may use it as the other Muslims do without any privilege. Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, bought it. Narrated Sahal bin Sa'ad, may Allah be pleased with him, a tumbler full of milk or water was brought to the Prophet, peace be upon him, who drank from it, while on his right side there was sitting a boy who was the youngest of those who were present, and on his left side there were old men. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked, O boy, will you allow me to give it, that is, the rest of the drink, to the old men? The boy said, O Allah's Messenger, I will not give preference to anyone over me to drink the rest of it, from which you have drunk. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, gave it to him. Narrated Az-Zuhri, Anas bin Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, said that once a domestic sheep was milked for Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, while he was in the house of Anas bin Malik. The milk was mixed with water drawn from the well in Anas's house. The tumbler of it was presented to Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, who drank from it. Then Abu Bakr was sitting on his left side, and a Bedouin on his right side. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, removed the tumbler from his mouth, Umar was afraid that the Prophet, peace be upon him, might give it to the Bedouin. So he said, O Allah's Messenger, give it to Abu Bakr, who is sitting by your side. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, gave it to the Bedouin, who was to his right, and said, you should start with the one on your right side. Chapter on whoever said the owner of the water has the right to drink till he is satisfied. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, superfluous water should not be withheld from others. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, do not withhold the superfluous water, for that will prevent people from grazing their cattle. Footnote: the hadith means that if one has a well near which there is a pasture and there is no other source of water in the area, one should not withhold the water from the sheep grazing there, for that would make it impossible for the sheep to graze there, as they would be in a great need of water after grazing. So, to withhold the water means to prevent sheep from grazing as well. Fath al-Bari. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, that Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, do not withhold the superfluous water, in order to withhold the superfluous grass. Chapter on if one digs a well in his own land, and somebody falls in it and dies, the owner is not responsible. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, no blood money will be charged if somebody dies in a mine, or in a well, or is killed by an animal, and if somebody finds a treasure in his land, he has to give 1/5 of it to the government. Footnote: the owner of the well is not responsible if somebody falls and dies in it. If the well is in his land or in uncultivated land belonging to nobody, this is true concerning mines also. But if the well is dug on the way of the Muslims or in the land of somebody else without his permission, and somebody falls and dies in it, then the person who has dug the well has to pay blood money. If an animal has untied itself and killed somebody or spoils his property, the owner of the animal is not responsible unless he is present at the time of the accident. Al-Qastalani, Qastalani, 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 Qastalani. Chapter on disputes and controversies about wells and the settlement of such disputes and controversies. Narrated Abdullah bin Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever takes a false oath to deprive somebody of his property will meet Allah, while he will be angry with him." Allah revealed, "Verily, those who purchase a small gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths." Quran, chapter 3, verse 77. Al-Ash'ath came to the place where Abdullah was narrating and said, "What has Abu Abdurrahman, that is Abdullah, been telling you?" This verse was revealed concerning me. I had a well in the land of a cousin of mine. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked me to bring witnesses to confirm my claim. I said, "I do not have witnesses." He said, "Let the defendant take an oath then." I said, "O Allah's Messenger, he will take a false oath immediately." Then the Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned the above narration, and Allah revealed the verse to confirm what he had said. See Hadith number 2515 and 2516. Chapter on the sin of him who withholds water from wayfarer and travelers. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "There are 3 types of people whom Allah will neither look at them on the day of resurrection, nor will He purify them from sins, and they shall have a painful torment. They are: 1. A man possessed superfluous water on a way, and he withheld it from travelers. 2. A man who gave a bay'ah, pledge, to a ruler, and he gave it only for worldly benefits. If the ruler gives him something, he gets satisfied, and if the ruler withholds something from him, he gets dissatisfied. 3. And a man displayed his goods for sale after the Asr prayer, and took a false oath by saying, 'By Allah, except whom none has the right to be worshipped, I have been given so much for my goods.' And somebody believes him and buys them. The Prophet, peace be upon him, then recited, 'Verily, those who purchase a small gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths.' Quran, chapter 3, verse 77. Chapter on the dams of rivers. Narrated Abdullah bin Az-Zubayr, may Allah be pleased with them. An Ansari man quarreled with Az-Zubayr in the presence of the Prophet, peace be upon him, about the Harra canals which were used for irrigating the date palms. The Ansari man said to Az-Zubayr, "Let the water pass." But Az-Zubayr refused to do so. So the case was brought before the Prophet, peace be upon him, who said to Az-Zubayr, O Zubayr, irrigate your land, and then let the water pass to your neighbor. On that, the Ansari got angry and said to the Prophet, peace be upon him, Is it because he, that is Zubayr, is your aunt's son? On that, the color of the face of Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, changed because of anger. And he said, O Zubayr, irrigate your land, and then withhold the water till it reaches the walls between the pits around the trees. Zubayr said, By Allah, I think that the following verse was revealed on this occasion. But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, judge in all disputes between them. Quran, chapter 4, verse 65. Chapter on the land nearer to the source of water has the right to be irrigated before the one that is farther. Narrated Urwa, may Allah be pleased with him, when a man from the Ansar quarreled with Az-Zubayr, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, O Zubayr, irrigate your land first, and then let the water flow to the land of the others. On that, the Ansari said to the Prophet, peace be upon him, Is it because he is your aunt's son? On that, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, O Zubayr, irrigate till the water reaches the walls between the pits around the trees, and then stop. That is, let the water go to the other's land. I think the following verse was revealed concerning this event. But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, judge in all disputes between them. Quran, chapter 4, verse 65. Chapter on the land nearer to the source of water has the right to be covered with water up to the ankles. Narrated Urwa bin Zubayr, may Allah be pleased with them, an Ansari man quarreled with Az-Zubayr about a canal in the Harra, which was used for irrigating date palms. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, ordering Az-Zubayr to be moderate, said, O Zubayr, irrigate your land first, and then leave the water for your neighbor. The Ansari said, Is it because he is your aunt's son? On that, the color of the face of Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, changed because of anger. And he said, O Zubayr, irrigate your land, and withhold the water till it reaches the walls that are between the pits around the trees. So Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, gave Az-Zubayr his full right. Az-Zubayr said, By Allah, the following verse was revealed in that connection. But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, judge in all disputes between them. Quran, chapter 4, verse 65. The sub-narrator, Ibn Shihab, said to Jurayj, another sub-narrator, the Ansar and the other people interpreted the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Irrigate your land and withhold the water till it reaches the walls between the pits around the trees, as meaning up to the ankles. Chapter on the superiority of providing water to those who need it. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, while a man was walking, he felt thirsty, and went down a well and drank water from it. On coming out of it, he saw a dog panting and eating mud because of excessive thirst. The man said, This dog is suffering from the same problem as that of mine. So he went down the well, filled his shoe with water, caught hold of it with his teeth, and climbed up and watered the dog. Allah thanked him for his good deed and forgave him. The people asked, O Allah's Messenger, is there a reward for us in serving the animals? He replied, Yes, there is a reward for serving any animate, living being. Narrated Asma binti Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with them. The Prophet, peace be upon him, offered the eclipse, salah, prayer, and then said, "Hell was displayed so close that I said, 'O my Lord, am I going to be one of its inhabitants?' Suddenly, he saw a woman, I think he said, who was being scratched by a cat. He said, 'What is wrong with her?' He was told, she had imprisoned it, that is, the cat, till it died of hunger." Narrated Abdullah bin Umar, may Allah be pleased with them, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "A woman was tortured and was put in hell fire because of a cat which she had kept locked till it died of hunger." Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, further said, "Allah knows better." Allah said to the woman, "You neither fed it nor watered it when you locked it up, nor did you set it free to eat the vermin of the earth." Chapter on whoever thinks that the owner of a tank or of a leather water container has more right to use the water than any other person. Narrated Sahih bin Sa'ad, may Allah be pleased with him, once a tumbler full of milk or water was brought to Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, who drank from it, while on his right side there was sitting a boy, who was the youngest of those who were present, and on his left side there were old men. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked, "O boy, do you allow me to give the drinks to the elder people first?" The boy said, "I will not give preference to anybody over me to have my share from you, O Allah's Messenger." So he gave it to the boy. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "By him in whose hands my soul is, some people will be driven away from my tank, Hawd al-Kawthar, on the day of resurrection, as strange camels are driven away from a private tank, trough." Narrated Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with them, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "May Allah be merciful to the mother of Ismail, Ishmael, if she had left the water of Zamzam, fountain as it was, without constructing a basin for keeping the water, or said, if she had not taken handfuls of its water, it would have been a flowing stream." Yarham, an Arab tribe, came and asked her, "May we settle at your dwelling?" She said, "Yes, but you have no right to possess the water." They agreed. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "There are 3 types of people whom Allah will neither speak to them nor look at them on the day of resurrection. They are: 1. A man who takes an oath falsely that he has been offered for his goods so much more than what he is given. 2. A man who takes a false oath after the Asr prayer in order to grab a Muslim's property. And 3. A man who withholds his superfluous water. Allah will say to him, "Today I will withhold my grace from you, as you withhold the superfluity of what you had not created." Chapter on no hima, private pasture, except according to what Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him, did. Footnote: this means that the Imam has the right to assign certain pastures for certain purposes, that is, for grazing the animals of the zakat. Nobody would then have the right to use the pastures for other purposes. Fath al-Bari. Narrated As-Sa'b bin Jathama, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "No hima except for Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him." We have been told that Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, made a place called An-Naqi as hima, and Umar made Ash-Sharaf and Al-Rabada hima for grazing the animals of zakat. Footnote: hima. The origin of the word is that when an Arab chief came to a certain place suitable for pasturing, he would let his dog bark at a higher place. The area across which the sound of the dog spread would be a private pasture for the chief's cattle, and nobody else would have the right to graze his cattle in it. So hima means a private pasture originally belonging to nobody, and nobody is allowed to cultivate it, but it is kept for grazing private animals. Fath al-Bari. Footnote: Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, and the Muslim leaders only have the right to keep pastures of this sort. No individual has the right to keep hima for his personal good, as the Arabs used to do in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. Ibid. Chapter on drinking water by people and watering animals from the rivers. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "Keeping horses may be a source of reward to some men, a shelter to another, that is, means of earning one's living, or a burden to a third. He to whom the horse will be a source of reward is the one who keeps it in Allah's cause, prepare it for holy battles, and ties it by a long rope in a pasture or a garden. He will get a reward equal to what its long rope allows it to eat in the pasture or the garden. And if that horse breaks its rope and crosses 1 or 2 hills, then all its footsteps and its dung will be counted as good deeds for its owner. And if it passes by a river and drinks from it, then that will also be regarded as a good deed for its owner, even if he has had no intention of watering it then." Horses are a shelter from poverty to the second person who keeps horses for earning his living so as not to ask others. And at the same time, he gives Allah's right, that is, zakat, from the wealth he earns through using them in trading, etc., and does not overburden them. He who keeps horses just out of pride and for showing off and as a means of harming the Muslims, his horses will be a source of sins to him. When Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, was asked about donkeys, he replied, "Nothing particular was revealed to me regarding them, except this general unique verse, which is applicable to everything. So whosoever does good equal to the weight of an atom, or a small ant, shall see it. And whosoever does evil equal to the weight of an atom, or a small ant, shall see it." Footnote: Horses are kept as a means of conveyance or for commercial purposes. One may use them in the way that pleases Allah and gets a reward for his obedience. Another may use them in disobeying Allah and is consequently punished. And still another may use them just for earning his living. Qastalani. Footnote: This means that if one treats his donkeys kindly and does not overburden them, he will be rewarded for that in the hereafter. And if he does the opposite, he will gain the fruit of his ill behavior. Qastalani. Narrated Zayd bin Khalid, may Allah be pleased with him. A man came to Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, and asked about al-Luqatha, a fallen thing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Recognize its container and its tying material, and then make public announcement about it for 1 year. And if its owner shows up, give it to him. Otherwise, use it as you like." The man said, "What about a lost sheep?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "It is for you, your brother, or the wolf." The man asked, "What about a lost camel?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Why should you take it, as it has got its water container, its stomach, and its hooves, and it can reach the places of water and can eat the trees till its owner finds it." Footnote: It is for you if its owner does not show up, or for its owner if he shows up, or for the wolf to eat if you leave it, and its owner does not find it. Footnote: The Prophet, peace be upon him, forbids the man from taking the lost camel, because it can stay in the desert for a long period without any danger. It is like a well-provided traveler. It can reach its destination. Chapter on the selling of wood and grass. Narrated Az-Zubayr bin al-Awwam, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No doubt, one had better take a rope and cut and tie a bundle of wood and sell it, whereby Allah will keep his face away from hellfire, rather than ask others who may give him or not." Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "No doubt, it is better for any one of you to cut a bundle of wood and carry it over his back and earn his living thereby, rather than to ask somebody who may or may not give him." See Hadith 2074. Narrated Hussein bin Ali, may Allah be pleased with them. Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "I got a she-camel as my share of the war booty on the day of the Battle of Badr, and Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, gave me another she-camel. I let both of them kneel at the door of one of the Ansar, intending to carry idkhir on them to sell it, and use its price for my wedding banquet on marrying Fatima. A goldsmith from Bani Qaynuqa was with me. Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib was in that house drinking wine, and a lady singer was reciting, 'O Hamza, kill the 2 fat old she-camels and serve them to your guests.' So Hamza took his sword and went towards the 2 she-camels and cut off their humps and opened their flanks and took a part of their livers. I said to Ibn Shihab, 'Did he take part of the humps?' He replied, 'He cut off their humps and carried them away.' Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, further said, 'When I saw that dreadful sight, I went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and told him the news. The Prophet, peace be upon him, came out in the company of Zayd bin Harith, who was with him then, and I too went with them. He went to Hamza and spoke harshly to him. Hamza looked up and said, 'Aren't you only the slaves of my forefathers?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, retreated and went out. This incident happened before the prohibition of drinking alcoholic drinks. Chapter on the uncultivated pieces of land granted by the ruler to some individuals. Narrated Anas, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, decided to grant a portion of the uncultivated land of Bahrain to the Ansar. The Ansar said, 'We will not accept it till you give a similar portion to our emigrant brothers from Quraysh.' He said, 'O Ansar, you will soon see people giving preference to others. So remain patient till you meet me on the day of resurrection.' Footnote: the prophecy was a sign of the prophethood of Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him. It came true that the Quraysh kings had the source of wealth and power in their hands. The Prophet, peace be upon him, tells the Ansar to be patient and wait for a great reward in the hereafter, as a compensation for the pleasures they would miss in this life. Chapter on documentation of the land grants. Narrated Anas, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, called the Ansar so as to grant them a portion of the land of Bahrain. They said, 'O Allah's Messenger, if you grant this to us, write a similar document to our Quraysh, emigrant brothers.' But the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not have enough grants, and he said, 'After me you will see the people giving preference to others. So be patient till you meet me.' Footnote: perhaps the grants given to the Ansar were land grants or money grants from the jizya tax levied from that land. The Prophet, peace be upon him, could not assign similar grants to the immigrants, perhaps because there were not many conquests then. Qastalani. Chapter on milking she-camels at water places. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, 'One of the rights of a she-camel is that it should be milked at a place of water.' Chapter on one may have the right to pass through a garden or to have a share in date palms. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if somebody sells date palms after pollinating them, their fruits will be for him, and he has the right to enter the garden and irrigate the date palms till he reaps the fruits. The owner of Ariyah has similar right. Narrated Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with him, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, if somebody buys date palms after they have been pollinated, the fruits will belong to the seller, unless the buyer stipulates the contrary. If somebody buys a slave having some property, the property will belong to the seller, unless the buyer stipulates that it should belong to him. Narrated Zayd bin Thabit, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet, peace be upon him, permitted selling the dates of the Ariyah for ready dates by estimating the amount of the former, as they are still on the trees. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with them, the Prophet, peace be upon him, forbade the sales called al-Mughirah, al-Muhaqala, and al-Muzabana, and the selling of fruits till they are free from blights. He forbade the selling of the fruits except for money, except the Ariyah. Narrated Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet, peace be upon him, allowed the sale of the dates of the Ariyah for ready dates by estimating the former, which should be estimated as less than 5 awsaq or 5 awsaq. Daoud, the sub-narrator, is not sure as to the right amount. Footnote: since there is doubt about the limits of the estimation, less than 5 awsaq is regarded as the legal amount. 5 awsaq or more is regarded as illegal. Qastalani. Narrated Rafi' bin Khadij and Sahal bin Abi Hathma, may Allah be pleased with them, Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, forbade the sale of muzabana, that is, selling of fruits for fruits, except in the case of Ariyah. He allowed the owners of Ariyah such kind of sale.